Needy Streamer Overload is a completely normal Twitch/YouTube streamer simulator where nothing bad happens, ever. Okay, but really, unironically, spoiler warning. Please do not watch. Who am I kidding? If you clicked on the video, either you already experienced one or more of the crazy endings and are asking what is even happening, or you don't even care about spoilers. But seriously, if things like this interest you, then get the game on Steam. It's really good and worth the asking price of $16. And don't even think about pirating, as that's a different game there. So for the people who want to be spoiled that are still here and those that need a refresher, Needy Streamer Overload is an idol management game with a modern flavor of a Twitch/YouTube personality. You play the role of the producer of your neat shut-in GF anime streaming career as the e-girl known as OMG Kawaii Angel. And your goal is to try and fulfill her dream of reaching 1 million subscribers. Okay, and here's the perfect moment to plug my channel, as if. Along with the dark themes of drug use, addiction, cheating, manipulation, cults, self-harm, violence, suicide, depression, and mental illness in general, Needy Streamer Overload also has an overlying theme of how becoming a big internet personality and gaining a large following in a short time can really destroy a person, which leads to endings ranging from ascending from the mortal plane of existence, to recreating some tragic internet history, to just you getting cucked. But while you play through the game and unlock all the hidden endings, there is a secret hidden overlying story being told to the player. The game that we play in Needy Streamer Overload has a hidden, interesting context in the overall world that it takes place in. Out of all the 22 endings in the game, there's only a few that are relevant in realizing the truth behind the horrifying streamer simulator. These are Welcome to My Religion, Needy Girl Overdose, Rainbow Girl, Happy End World, SMT, and How to Say Goodbye to You in French. I'm not pronouncing that, which is a bit of a shame because I would love to talk about some of my favorite endings like Painful Future, Internet Overdose, and There Are No Angels, maybe some other time. These 6 endings hint at the truth of what's going on in Needy Streamer Overload. The truth is like all but confirmed in the hidden file 0 with How to Say Goodbye to You but in French, but most people haven't played it, and the reveal itself is hidden in multiple endings. The grand truth and the reveal being the whole game hasn't been real. You, the producer, the fans, the drugs, the mental breakdown, the cults, the sponsorships, none of it ever existed. Everything that you experience is from the mind of a young woman who dropped out of school and wants to find happiness from streaming. Everything is just a simulation to see what could happen to her. Unfortunately, she doesn't learn from it and ends up ruining her life for real. But that might be going a bit too far. Let's draw a view back to the relevant endings to see the pre-file 0 hints that everything is a simulation. Or at least the fact that we, the producer, aren't even a real person. The Welcome to My Religion route has Ame becoming a cult leader after gathering her fans and seeing the truth from a psychedelic drug called magic paper. The thing is, Ame really is seeing the truth during these drug trips, as we see what she hallucinates, and she sees the real world. Our world. These magic paper drug trips are one of the very few times the game breaks away from its Minhara-inspired Japanese pop art style, showing the mundane real-life things from presumably the real Ame's life. Stairs in a school or hospital, traffic from inside a car, and a neighborhood street at night. These magic paper trips to the real world also cause her to question reality and who even is the producer, which doesn't really make sense with Ame's character, as she's totally reliant on the producer to do anything, unless we are to believe that Ame in the simulation is getting closer to the real Ame, who knows that the producer isn't real. The final image of the route is a cruelly drawn picture of Kawaii Angel with her cult. Keep this picture and art style in mind, it's going to be important later. Needy Girl Overdose is an ending you achieve when after a month Kawaii Angel is below 500,000 subscribers and Ame is completely in love with you and is lost in her dark thoughts. In this ending, Ame murders you for not actually loving her, determining this by a quiz based on your actions and things she has told you throughout the game. This is all capstone with you having to write an essay on why you really do love Ame. Failing any of this has her killing you, stabbing you with a knife. But look what happens when you, the producer, dies. It's the monitor being broken. The knife does have blood on it, but Ame is known for cutting herself for stress relief, albeit this is a bit much blood for that. The main point here is that you dying is the monitor being broken and stabbed by an upset Ame. That's why it looks like the main force of the stabbing is targeting the screen rather than a person. It's because the screen is the target. The quick transition frame between the broken screen and Ame's reflection also support this, where you can see the knife enter the monitor, shattering it. Everything that happened inside of this computer monitor. Rainbow Girl is an alternate path to the Welcome to My Religion ending. Instead of sharing what she has learned from the magic paper to her audience, Ame decides to take more magic paper and becomes even more and more aware of the real world, breaking it a bit too far in her revelations, smashing the fourth wall, with Ame realizing that her whole world is legitimately a simulation. This can be interpreted in 2 different ways. Ame is talking to us, the player, who is essentially a god watching her every move, referencing the fact that her world is a simulation game in the genre sense, but it also can double as simulation Ame talking to the real Ame, as the person Ame is speaking to is referred to as her god, her creator. The next two endings are some of the strongest evidence that the whole game is a simulation for the real Ame. Happy End World is a rare ending achieved by having Ame love you and not have any dark thoughts and at least 1 million subscribers by the end of the month. Oh, and your actual computer needs to be disconnected from the internet. Yes, your PC needs to have the Ethernet cable pulled out and the Wi-Fi turned off to get this ending. In this ending, the simulation starts to malfunction as Kawaii Angel can't post to social media anymore, as there's no internet, and the simulation starts to freak out and terminates itself, calling it an unknown ending in-universe, not an extra pop-out window like all the other endings. Happy End World is one of the two endings that are not required to see File 0, the other one being known as SMT, which is an extremely rare ending that has a 1% chance of happening at night when Ame's thoughts are consumed with darkness. In this ending, Ame starts to freak out as the game starts to glitch out until she's replaced with a text warning to delete something immediately. And when this thing that needs to be deleted isn't deleted, we are bombarded with screams of pain from Ame, and then the game reboots. I'm fairly certain on top of being a reference to the SMT Famicom turn it off now message, it is supposed to be the simulation glitching out and having errors due to Ame having such a horrible mental state. Both of these endings are based on the fact that the game that you currently are playing is a simulation in the game's world. Think about it, what's the first thing that you see when you launch the game? A BIOS boot up screen, and then an operating system launch screen. This isn't for the vaporwave aesthetic, it's part of the overall narrative of Needy Streamer Overload. The final true ending of the game, How to Say Goodbye to You but in French or Save Zero, ties together every hint that Needy Streamer Overload is a simulation in the game's world, as the events and timeline of Save Zero cannot be redone like you do with other saves. This is the real world, and in the real world you can't go back in time and change your actions. But also in the real world, the producer doesn't exist, the whole ending basically playing out as a speedrun of the game without the producer's influence. By the end of the month she reaches 2 million subscribers, but mentally, Ame is not really there. Falling to drug abuse and having a mental breakdown on stream, she becomes disillusioned with her dream of becoming a top streamer. The game's mental stats also support this, as Ame is at the brink of a mental breakdown with a head filled of dark thoughts and is infatuated with a man who doesn't exist. Realizing that this is toxic to her, Ame messages herself on Gine one last time to say goodbye to P-chan, the producer, the player, and walks away from webcam never to return. Ame is no longer a streamer. She doesn't need her streaming computer anymore, so she leaves the computer. She leaves us. We are the computer. And after Ame has left us for good, we can finally open the secret.txt file that has been taunting us the whole game, revealing that we are one of many P-chans. This iteration is a producer who supports Ame emotionally and mentally as she tries to become an internet personality known as Kawaii Angel. Our time as P-chan is over. The streaming phase of Ame's life is over. The game is over. And we are left with this image of Kawaii Angel and Ame, the same art style that was used at the end of Welcome to My Religion. Everything culminating with us, the player, being created by Ame to help her succeed and cope with her loneliness. An alternative to Needy Streamer Overload being a simulation is that the events of the game are all scenarios playing out in Ame's head as she goes on her journey to become a top streamer. Wait, I think that's actually better than the simulation interpretation. Yes, that is the twist of this video. I don't think we're a computer program in Needy Streamer Overload. We are actually a figment of Ame's imagination. Although it does leave some holes in some of the more meta endings like Happy End World and SMT not really fitting in, but then again, they aren't needed to see File 0. They can be interpreted as not canon. The Welcome to My Religion ending is Ame mixing past incarnations of P-chan and Kawaii Angel with the current coping mechanisms of streaming scenarios, which is why it also has a drawing made by Ame at the end. Rainbow Girl is really strange and barely fits, but also doesn't actually fit simulation theory as the game just abruptly ends with no pop-out win like all the other endings. And who's to say that File 0 happens after the events of the game? It could easily be happening at the same time. Every playthrough is Ame reflecting on the change in her life and how it could go wrong. That's why every ending is a bad ending. Every ending except the normie ending, which is achieved by Ame not having any dark thoughts, where she decides to quit streaming and just have a normal life, just like in the real world. To help cope with the sudden large fame and success that streaming has gotten her, Ame is trying to imagine how her perfect boyfriend P-chan would deal with the situation. That is why at the end of File 0, she's stressed, depressed, and completely in love with P-chan. It is because all of this time during her struggles and hardships, she has been coping with her imaginary boyfriend. But after the fantasy is over, Ame has to wake up from the fantasy and face reality, and realizing how much she doesn't like this reality of being a streamer, she leaves the streamer life behind, leaving behind this incarnation of P-chan, her imaginary perfect producer boyfriend, the player.